Hey guys, let's meet. I'm Natalia Ryumina. I'm an experienced Smolensk artist. I don't know, I've stopped counting, but it's more than 9 years. Today I want to tell you how I pour stones into a cut. This is one way to make a stone cut on canvas. This will be my diptych. Here are 2 parts with a clock face. I left it like this on purpose to try it out. And I want to show you in detail, step by step, how I cut the stone, because there are many variations. Each artist chooses the perfect way for them. First, an important point. We protect ourselves. I'll put on a mask while I work. I'm not wearing a mask now as I speak. But I mix the resin, and I have a heater here set to 28 degrees, even though it's normally warm outside. But I set it up, and while I'm preparing everything, my resin will gain viscosity. Why am I doing all this? I work with medium resin. Art Pro by Resin Pro by Art Resin Medium or Deluxe. Deluxe would be even better for stone cuts, but it's too fast. We wouldn't have had time, or rather I wouldn't have had time to chat, tell you everything, and finish it all with Deluxe. That's why I chose Art Pro. While I take you through the process step by step, it will be setting up and helping me create a masterpiece. So I mix the resin and I'm going to put it to heat up. We'll be pouring the stone slice onto the canvas. Those who work with resin know the scare of you can't pour resin onto canvas because the resin will crack due to the motion of the canvas, the fabric base moving. But guys, I'm a total experimenter, especially when I'm told I can't do something. I'll definitely try it. My largest work was 1.5 by 1.5 meters. I poured a sea painting. This isn't it. It's not 1.5 by 1.5 minutes. I'm just going to show you how amazing it looks on canvas. I have this tutorial on YouTube, by the way, 1.5 by 1.5 meters. What do we need to know before working with canvas? First, we always choose a wide frame. We opt for linen, and the canvas itself should be of linen. This is just perfect because linen is much denser by structure and is tensed and soldered in several layers along the edges much stronger. Then it is impregnated much more heavily with factory impregnation, meaning you won't have to prime anything later. And definitely after we've poured, we insert these boards into the niches. If needed, you can check out how to embed it on my YouTube channel, but I believe you'll figure out how to do it perfectly. Watch. Now about the basics. What do we select as what will hold our canvas? Never opt for plastic cups. With the slightest heating from a blowtorch, a hairdryer, when you blow it up, you won't even notice. The plastic cup will heat up, will bend like this, and your workpiece will bend, and the resin will all run off and ruin your fill. Don't take it. Better to remove old paint cans, just some dense bases. I purchased paper cups on purpose. Paper cups hold best. Don't place it on the fabric stretch, only on the wood itself. And I glued the canvas C from the end on the back side so it doesn't leak when we are making the caramel edge, and glued the sides. I purposely did the sides. Once I pour, I will wait, remove it so the resin is not still alive and spreading, and the caramel edge is perfectly formed. Now, about how we apply the paint. You can, since we have a canvas, in principle, you can use mat board, plywood, MDF, it all fits well. You need to determine where your areas will be, where you will add stones, because I always make these areas either with a metallic spray can, silver. Imagine stones, rhinestones, yes, precious stones, they always have a metal backing to feel. Even if you have the cheapest gravel, by the way, I got mine at the garden store, we're going to use it everywhere. Lay a metallic base in the areas where you'll pour the large gravel. The first part of the pouring for this part, I'll make resin and large gravel, large sections. For the second part, I'll add small details, small gravel, and a dial bank. Always check the level of your table. Always cover your surface with polythene. In my studio, I even have the floor covered. Always protect your airways. Please don't disregard your own health. Take care of yourself, and your good health will serve you for a long time. I'm picking up 2 cans of spray paint now. There's going to be rocks over here, and there's going to be glitter over there. Around the edge, I'll do what I said. The metallic portion needs to be done under the base for the glitter. I'm about to spray gold now. I actually wanted to use silver, but I've run out of shiny silver. This brand is just the most golden gold I have ever seen in my life. See, this is why I'm doing this. I'm going to have rocks over here. To ensure the stones sparkle and don't appear cheap, as I've mentioned, we create this base. You can use gold leaf, silver foil, or anything you like. The important thing is that it enhances your work. And now I will sprinkle it. Here's the little grit. Look, I've got two types of it, like this white one. The white one will be scattered around the edges. I'm going to paint it gold as well. And this other one is transparent. I'm sprinkling the grit on top of the still wet paint. Later, I'll secure it with resin. I'm adding it here to the grit. At this point, you can go ahead and use a larger grit. Don't hold back. The stone's facets are usually maximized. The stone's facets should be as luxurious, as generous, as beautiful as possible. Here's the white version. I'll spray it again with an aerosol can. Carefully with those, gentle spraying motions. That's it. And while the paint is drying, I'll tint the resin. The resin should be determined, by feel. Well, of course, it's difficult to guide a large number of people towards understanding what the resin should feel like. But here we're all holding a cup of warm and hot tea. We comprehend the maximum heat when we can no longer hold the tea. That is, such scorching hot tea. Now imagine warm tea. Right now I have resin warm tea. This is not sufficient to make veins, to make a cut in the stones. That's why I'm not hurrying. I'm intentionally mixing the resin in a high volume so that the viscosity increases due to the volume of resin. For those who don't know, who's a beginner. The white pigment should be very thick. The cut of the stone should not show through unless you're making a special kind of intermediate layer. All colors should be thick. They should split into veins because of their density. I have pigments from Resin Pro, white, brown, and green. I'm adding one more. In total, it comes out to 220 grams of resin for 1 cup. I poured in 220 grams of white, kneaded it. I used exactly 30 drops of the pigment. Mix it really well. I always choose a clear cup to see what's happening on the sides, how I'm mixing the resin, how I'm working, and if I'm controlling the entire process. Therefore, it's crucial for beginners to not use opaque cups so they can see clearly if the pigment is mixed in well or not. I'm going to add 6 more drops. Right now, I'm going to pour our stone chips out here. At this stage, you can easily add some texture. Why am I making these stone chips now when I'll also be adding stone chips in the next layer? I'm doing this to make the texture of the stone cut even bigger and more voluminous. So tomorrow I'll add even smaller stone chips to these stone chips. Yep, there we go. The main color is white, but the added green color will make all the beauty of my work. I'm using a little less green because we don't need a lot of contrasting colors in the filling in the dirty glass that we're going to do now. That is, the veins should be clear. But in any case, when mixed, the colors will give an additional effect, additional shades. Since I'll have a diptych, I'll continue the drawing for the second piece. So this first part, where's the dial? I'll show you now. Here's where the dial is going to be. And this drawing will go to the second piece, to the second cut. Yep, there we go. That's it. Remove anything unnecessary from the table, things that would get in your way. Now we take a separate cup and pour the filling in the dirty glass technique. This technique came from fluid art. We dilute the acrylic in a special consistency and pour layer upon layer, puddle after puddle, the colors that we need. All right, clear anything off the table you don't need. So now we take a separate cup and do a dirty glass fill. This technique came from fluid art. We thin the acrylic to a specific consistency and pour layer by layer, puddle by puddle, the colors we want. So white and green. I'm not adding gold and glitter to this layer because I'm adding gold in the next layer tomorrow when I do the pour. So I leave a little bit of each color so there are veins. Dark shades always look really cool and contrasting next to gold near the fill to emphasize the gold. Don't forget to border the line so all our veins follow that line. It'll look logical and beautiful. I'll pour out some veins and leave a little extra just in case. I'll add some green. Here you should relax. You shouldn't stress out. You shouldn't worry that something won't work out. In any case, something will go wrong. That's normal. It's always like that. You won't get results without it, you know. And it might seem to you that something's not going right, but for someone, it's a natural process and a masterpiece. So, see, I'll first pour the green part. And when you pour, let the cup release the color. Watch how it pours out. Let the resin spread. Let the resin show its effect. Now I need to spread this color a bit because I'm going to make it beige here. Now I'm adding a bit of resin so it can move here. Anyone who has worked with fluid art knows that acrylic won't move without a base layer. So here too, the resin won't move if you don't have a base layer. But I'm doing this on purpose. A base layer is just a layer of resin, right? I do this on purpose. My pour, my cut doesn't need to move too much. I've mixed enough resin. I just want to thin it a bit so the next layer will merge with it. And the next one I pour even into the same glass, only with brown. I add a bit of brown, just a little bit, so my pour isn't too dark. I pour the remaining white in veins near the dark. Work in contrast. If you poured a dark one, there should be a light one next to it. It's artistic, a classic technique. Says the guy who never painted. No, I actually went to art school, misleading. I went to art school probably for about a month. Then I quit. Then I studied all the techniques on my own. So white parallels and pour the dirty glass. And here I'm pouring. Oh, it looks delicious. And the rest of the white. Now I'll join them all. And look, guys, to get a caramel edge, it's like a clerk tucking in a bed sheet. Yes, your edge will be cut the same as here to continue your painting. In order for it to turn out, I specially glued these sides so that they would hold itself, so that she would not move now, so that she would not go anywhere. I would specially warm her, so that she would not quickly run away from me either. And on purpose, in about 10, 15 minutes, I will watch, try to make her look like a medic. And only then will I remove the tape and let the resin move. That's the only way. The result is a caramel edge. Especially canvas, it will adhere perfectly to resin. If you have MDF or plywood or artboard with a sharp edge, girls and boys, you need to sand the sharp edge. Make it softer, make it more rounded. Well, not straight, like factory rounded turning, but sand a little with sandpaper and only then fill it with resin, because you won't get caramel on the sharp edge. That's how I don't do burner now. Why? Because my resin polymerizes, my resin gains viscosity. If I use a torch to get rid of the bubbles now, it'll soften the whole thing up and my veins could all run away. That's why I'm going to leave it like this. Now I'm going to turn off the camera, wait another 3 or 4 minutes, and then remove the outlines. So hooray! Bye-bye, everyone. So we'll continue making the second diptych for the clock set. We've got staples here, don't we? Like a canvas nailed with staples, so that you can't see them when we seal them in resin and make a caramel edge. I went over it with acrylic, thick acrylic, and painted it with white paint so that you couldn't see these little brackets. Next, let's flip our canvas over. And I also glue the edges of the canvas so that they don't come loose, don't stick out, especially when I pour the tar so that there's no movement at all. I warmed up a hot glue gun and just glued it on. I moved the edge over a little bit. And along the edge between I glue and press down well. Canvas. I mixed epoxy resin in 2 cups. We're gluing the end. I'm doing this so that I can make a caramel. Now for the color one. I need green and brown. I'll paint the rest white. I'll leave a little bit transparent for the stones. So, green. The green I take is dark green from Rubber Pro. For pigments, if you need it, ask. I will send links. And I have a promo code to find a shot for a 10% discount. I need to mark where I will have the stones. Guys, at this stage, it will look very cool if you make these bases where the stones are, the substrate. I have already said on the air that there are substrates on our rhinestones. There are metal substrates on the stones. You can fall asleep, fill it with silver spray paint. You can seal it with something gold or silver on the waist. I paint this part where I will have the stones.
I shed transparent resin. It's okay that my paint didn't harden.
And don't worry that there's not enough resin and the stones won't stick.
They'll stick because I'll still be layering over it.
At this stage, you can go ahead and add huge cobblestones here. Basically, the ones that will look in proportion within the frames, well, in frames, obviously, in your piece. Now let's fill it in.
Dirty glass.
And look, you guys, the dirty glass came from there in the fluid art technique. Resin, just like acrylic, it's spread on some kind of base. In other words, there needs to be a base coat, a resin base coat. But since I have a lot of resin mixed up and it'll spread all by itself, I'm not making a base coat. However, if you have less or more work, make a resin base coat if you don't want to use more resin and pour over it. In other words, then you'll use less resin than you would without a base coat.
Now I'm going to draw an outline around my pebbles. So they look brighter to me, and pour the white, pour a little ways away from the resin on your rocks because the resin will spread out.
Decorate. We'll make rocks a scattering, we'll make veins. So let's start. We'll add balestka in here, lots of it. Whatever you have, in the shade you want to make the veins, add it all in here. And pour it into a bag. If the resin's not ready yet, then keep it in the bag just a little longer. Release the air. And cut off the nozzle as thin as possible, as tiny as possible. And here we go. Here too, you've got to let out the air. Just look how it pours. And we start to draw it neatly. And try and make an uneven line. First, we outline the obvious details, and then we move on to the smaller ones. And look guys, here too, by the same principle we just used for the vein, I pour rocks and bits in here. Everything there is. So far I've only got light colored stuff. Mix it up to combine. I'm going to be adding this to these details. And I just pour it on my rocks too. So guys, those of you who made it to the finish line, big likes and hugs to you. Finish. This is the very last layer. You know, someone will watch this video and wonder why on earth does it take so long to carve this stone? No, you could carve a stone much more affordably. You can just cover everything with acrylic, finish it with resin, add some gems,
and voila, you've got yourself a stone cut. It all boils down to how meticulous or picky you and your client are. It also depends on the client's budget. You have to discuss all of this. My task was to create something as extravagant, pricey, high quality, and pretty as could be. So I am revealing to you every detail, bit by bit. Now it's time to finish up. Just like the final touches on a meal, we don't do it with fresh mixed resin, and we don't attempt it on a smooth surface either. We take P320 sandpaper, my dear, and we begin to sand down ruthlessly, working on both the edges and the painting itself. Let's go to the coating right away.